it says tan, we say the big A equals negative a half. Well, we know that we're talking about an angle. So I can rewrite this as tan theta equals negative a half, and I'm trying to find tan of 2 theta. If we look at our double angle identities, we know that tan 2 theta is 2 tan theta all over 1 minus tan squared theta. Let's first draw our triangle. So if we know SOHCAHTOA, TOA, we know that we have opposite over adjacent. I don't like to put this negative with the 1 or the 2 yet until I go to draw the triangle. It tells us that our triangle is in quadrant 2. So we can call this theta. So the opposite is 1, the adjacent is 2, and we'll put the negative with the 2 because to the left is negative, up is positive. We can do Pythagorean theorem to find the hypotenuse, and we know the hypotenuse is always positive. So 1 squared plus negative 2 squared equals c squared. So we would have 1 plus 4 is equal to c squared, and we take the square root. So our hypotenuse is positive, positive square root of 5. So we know over here we have opposite, we have our adjacent, and we have our hypotenuse. Let's fill stuff in. So if it says 2 tan theta, we have in our numerator 2 tan theta. They actually already give us that. So that's negative a half. And I'm going to put this in brackets because it needs to be our numerator divided by our quantity in the denominator. So in our denominator we have 1 minus tan squared. So I'll do negative half squared. We'll simplify inside the brackets, then we'll change division to multiplication. So over here, those cancel, right? So we would have negative 1 divided by, now over here be careful, you can't change this to a positive, right? PEMDAS. So first we do negative 1/2 squared. So negative a half times negative a half is positive 1/4. And if we replace this with positive 1/4, we then over here have 1 minus 1/4, which becomes 4 over 4, or 4 minus 1, which would be positive 3/4. And we'll change division to multiplication and flip the fraction on the right. And change this to multiplication. I'll put the 4 in the numerator and the 3 in the denominator. So we have negative 4/3. Negative 4/3. Let me rewrite that 3. So that's what tan 2 theta is. Tan theta is negative a half. Tan 2 theta is negative 4/3. If they say find theta, so if you're told to find, I don't know what's wrong with this pen, find theta, we can look at what we had in the beginning. So we can write tan theta equals negative 1/2. If we use our calculator, we can put in our calculator inverse tan of negative 1/2. Now when you put this in your calculator, it tells you that the value is negative 26.6, negative 26.565. Now that is over here, right? Negative 26.56. So if this little sliver is 26.56, if you do 90 minus 20, this sliver 25.656, you'll get 63.435. And we need to keep coming up until we reflect into quadrant 2. Because they tell us that our angle, our theta, is in quadrant 2. And you might say, well, why did you get negative 26 then 0.565? Well, because tan is negative in those 2 quadrants, right? All students, tan is negative in second quadrant, take calc. So tan is negative also in this quadrant. But we need to reflect until we get that angle that's in the second quadrant. So if we reflect, this is the 63-degree one. This then is the 26-degree one, and I'm not writing negative 26 because negative is just the direction, right? This is the 26 one, and then this is the 63.435. So if we're trying to find that angle in the second quadrant, we would say 90 plus 63.435. So we're going to say theta for this problem in quadrant 2 is going to be 153.4. Okay. Let's back that up. If we were asked to find tan, so tan 2 theta we found is negative 4/3. If we were asked what is theta, we know that theta, it says, is in quadrant 2, the triangle is in quadrant 2. So we used our reflections, we put in our calculator, and we said negative 26.565 isn't in quadrant 2. So we had to figure out, using reflections, what value this angle would be in quadrant 2. And then if it said what quadrant is 2 theta in, right? If it said what quadrant is 2 theta in, you would have to find sine of 2 theta, you would have to find cosine of 2 theta, you would have to find tan of 2 theta, and see where they were all positive and negative, and then based on that figure out your quadrant where 2 theta